Okay, so step number one when it comes to A/B testing your YouTube thumbnails is to first identify the right type of videos to do a thumbnail test on, because you don't just want to do it on videos that are not hitting the right metrics. You want to make sure you look at the right metrics, which I'm going to show you here in a few minutes, and then once you do that, then you can make your decision to continue on through the rest of this process. All right, so let me show you exactly how to do it. All right, so now I'm going to take you through the steps that you want to go through when it comes to identifying the right type of videos to do the test on. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to go over here to the analytics tab and you want to click on that. All right, so now that the analytics is up, the first thing you want to do is you want to go over here to where it says, like your time frame, is you want to click down on the arrow and then you want to go to 90 days, right? So we want to look at this over a 90-day span and look at the amount of data that we're getting inside of there. All right, so now from here, what we want to do is we want to go right here to where it says see more. Now, first thing we need to do is we need to isolate videos and YouTube shorts, because we're not looking at YouTube shorts right here. So what I want to do is I'm going to click right in here in the filter box and I'm going to type videos, and you can see it says content type videos. So if we look right here, all of these are videos, so we good to go. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to go down a little bit and we want to look right here to where it says impressions, and we want to click on that. Now when we click on impressions, what it's going to do is it's going to show us over the last 90 days what each of our videos has for impressions, and then we're going to look over on the right side as well. All right, so if we look right here, I have 373,000 impressions over the last 90 days with videos only. Now if we look at this first video, which is the link to YouTube description video, you can see that video has gotten 57,000 impressions over the last 90 days. Now if you look at the click-through rate that it's held over that time, it's held double-digit click-through rates, which is 11%, which is actually pretty good, right? Now if we look at the next one, which is the how to share your YouTube channel link video, that has gotten 31,000 and it's maintained double digits as well. And then if we look at one more, I'm just showing you what a good thumbnail actually looks like. But if you go to the next one, which is this video here, it has almost 30,000 impressions and it's maintained a 20.1% click-through rate. Now that's how you determine how good a thumbnail is. You look at the impressions. If there's high impressions and high click-through rate, that's how you determine, how good it is. But then what we're looking for in this video to identify the videos that we actually want to do the test on is we want to go high impressions and we want to go low click-through rate. That's the ones that we actually want to do the test on. So for example, let's find one that's kind of lower than what I typically like. So right here, we got 11,000 impressions. But if you look right here, it has a 6.4% click-through rate, which isn't bad. But if we can boost that up higher, maybe to like a 9% or 8% or any percent, we're gonna triple our views or even double our views, okay? So from here, that would be my first one. So that's the how to increase RPM and CPM on YouTube. I will go ahead and I will put that in the Google Doc and I would say, okay, let's actually do a test on that, which I've actually already done a test on that, all right? And then I would say, okay, what's the next one? This one has just about the same and it has a 5.5. Boom, I would write that one down, all right? So hopefully you're getting the point. You wanna look for the ones that have a massive amount of impressions, and even if you don't have a lot of data, just look for the ones that has the highest for you, okay? So maybe you don't have 50,000 impressions or 10 or 8 or whatever, right? Maybe you only have 3,000 impressions. You look at that and then you determine, okay, this one has high impressions and it has a lower click-through rate than my better ones, okay? And then you take those, and then now that you understand the process, the next step you're gonna need to go through is actually knowing what you actually need to change in those thumbnails to make them different enough. All right, so what should you be changing in your thumbnails to actually make them look different? So what you see here are 3 thumbnails that I did for a video that I put out here on my channel called How to Find Your Target Audience on YouTube, right? So I tested all of these thumbnails and I already got the data back from them, but what are the things that you actually want to change in your thumbnail? So if you look here, this background is different, this background is different, and this background is different. So that's one variation you can change. You can change what the background looks like. You can also change the text. So imagine if any one of these had text on it, I would make this text different than this one and this one different than this one, right? So the most important thing to remember here is whatever variation that you do, you always want to make sure that you test in one thing, because if you change a whole bunch of different things at the same time, you don't really know what really made the significant difference in the click-through rate, right? So it's important to test one thing at a time. So we talked about background, we talked about changing the text, text. And then another thing that you could do that most people don't even think about is I could have actually put me on this side and had me pointing this way, right? So it's also moving the creator around that can make the thumbnail look a little bit different, right? Because you don't want something that looks too similar, because if it's too similar, then it doesn't show you the difference in the thumbnails either, because it's gonna look the same to the person that's possibly already saw the thumbnail and didn't click, and then they got to this point and they saw this thumbnail, but it looks too similar. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually show you a super cool tool that you can actually use so you can start testing your thumbnails and get the best results. All right, so the tool we're gonna be using to test our thumbnails is called Thumbnail Test. All right, so what you wanna do to get access is you wanna go ahead and use that first link down below in the description. That'll give you access so you can actually start testing your thumbnails. All right, now after you download it, what you wanna do is you wanna download their extension. All right, so go to the Google Chrome web store, and I want you to type Thumbnail Test just like this, and I want you to go ahead and hit enter. Now when you hit enter, you're looking for this one right here, right? You see this little logo? You wanna click on this one, and then as you can see, this is called the analytics processor, all right? So what this is gonna do is, as long as you have this extension installed, what it's gonna do is, as it's testing your thumbnails, it's gonna be able to pull the data from inside your YouTube studio. So that's the purpose of you actually downloading this right after you get access to it, all right? All right, so now what you wanna do is you wanna hit add to Chrome. As you can see, for me, it says remove from Chrome. Now I'm gonna show you what this tool actually does, all right? So when I go inside of my YouTube studio, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit refresh. So every time you go in there, it's gonna pretty much register. So you see it says checking for active tests. Please wait a few seconds. And then once that disappears, it just checked all the data that it needed, okay? So you're gonna actually have to do that, okay? All right, so now let's go ahead and click off of this. All right, so this is what Thumbnail Test looks like inside, all right? So you can see steps 1 all the way to 4. As you can see, it's very, very simple process. I'm about to take you through it. All right, so these two buttons right here, get new videos and update all video data. Before you press those buttons, right, I'm gonna explain to you what they do. Your video has to either be public or it has to be scheduled, okay? And if it's scheduled, that means it's gonna be private, all right? Once that happens, all of your videos are actually gonna appear inside of here, right? That is the only way that they're going to appear when you hit these two buttons here. So get new videos is going to look at your latest 10 videos and it's going to pull them in. Now this right here is going to update all the video data. So it's going to go through all of your videos and pull all the data that it might have missed. Okay, so you can do this every once in a while. I tend to kind of mix it up a little bit and pull them in based on what I'm looking for. Okay, so now once you get to that part, now we can actually start setting up our tests. All right, so from here, what we want to do is I'm going to click on the video that I want to do the test for. So as you can see, it's checked, and then I'm gonna hit next step. Okay, so you can see you could do a thumbnail only test, title only test, or a thumbnail and title test. But for sake of this video, we're just gonna focus on the thumbnail. All right, so I'm gonna click on that, and then I'm gonna hit next step. All right, so now you can see here's the original thumbnail. They automatically do that. And then from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the variations that I actually wanna add. Now, for sake of this video, I'm just gonna do one so we can have one against the other. But there are times where I do like 3, 4, and 5 different thumbnails and it'll test through all the variations. All right, so I'm gonna go with this one right here as the one I wanna test it against. And then I'm gonna hit next step. All right, so this is where I'm gonna move me over so I can break down what all of this stuff over here mean. Okay, so these are the test settings, all right? So you can either test daily or you can do hourly. For my recent videos, I tend to do like the hourly so I can kind of monitor it in YouTube Studio and then also go over there inside of Thumbnail Test and kind of just look at the data as it's continuing to go, right? Because things change all the time. All right, so then I also make sure this is always on. So I want to include the original thumbnail to test it against. And then for the next one, which is the test format, right? You got default and you got consecutive. All right, so let me show you what these mean. So you can see right here, there are 2 test formats available, classic and consecutive. So classic will run a different thumbnail each day /hour. So it's showing you what that's gonna look like. So if you got 4 thumbnails, then you can see it's gonna test A, B, C, D, and so on, right? And if you go here, it says if you run a consecutive test with 2 thumbnails, so I'm using 2 thumbnails, right? The consecutive test is gonna split the 24 hours up, only if you have 2 thumbnails. But if you have more thumbnails, then it's gonna make sure that it's evenly distributed for all of those thumbnails, okay? Now, right here, you see it says, we currently recommend classic tests for recent videos and consecutive tests for old videos. Now, I've used both of them, and I'm gonna show you them a little bit later as we continue to go throughout this video as far as results, all right? So I'm gonna hit okay. And then as you can see right here, you can also adjust the time. So you see this automatically sets for 8 days. days, and I can change it, right? I can go all the way out to 80 days if I really want to, right? Now, if I go over here and I go to hourly, you can see things change. So you can see right here, it can go default or you can go consecutive. Now for me, for newer videos, I tend to leave it right here for hourly and default, and then I do the most amount of hours, right? So I might choose 80 hours, and then right here, you see it says start date, right? So I would just set it to the date that I published my video on. And then at this point, I would hit run test. Now I'm not gonna do that because I've already ran a split test for this particular video, but now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna show you what actually happens once your test is over and what you should actually be looking for. All right, so now we're gonna take a look at some of the results that I've done for some of the tests so you can see how big of a difference changing your thumbnail can actually make, all right? All right, so first we're gonna look at the ongoing test, and then I'm gonna show you some of the past tests so you can see how the data works. All right, so this test that I'm running right now, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at some of the data that it's been showing. All right, so you can see it shows you both thumbnails. So this is the first one, this was the second one. And then it shows you, depending on which one you're doing, whether you're doing the hourly or if you're doing a daily one, it'll show you the dates. And then for this one, for the hourly, it'll show you the times. All right, so then right here, these are the most important things that I will focus on when it comes to determining which one is actually gonna be the winner, okay? All right, so the first thing I look at is views. So you can see right here, so far, this thumbnail has driven 15 views. This one has driven 14 views. That's the first stage. Now, second, you want to look at the CTR. This click-through rate is a 1.95%, which isn't good, right? But then you can see over here, this one has a 3.99%. So you can see that's quite a jump, right? And then I would look at, okay, what is the amount of impressions? So if we look here, you can see this one has 358 impressions, while this one has 276 impressions. Now, what I'm looking for is for this number over here to come up on this one to see if this is either going to stay the same or it's going to start to go down, right? All right, so then I go to the average view duration. So you see this one has 50 seconds of average view duration, which this is a shorter video, but 50 seconds is not as good as 1 minute and 52 seconds, right? So now we kind of working our way down. All right, so now from here, I usually skip this one. Some people tend to use the AVD, which is your average view duration times your CTR, but I tend to not use that. All right, so now the next thing I look at is the average view percentage, okay? So you can see this thumbnail has a 19.99% average percentage view, but then if you look over here, this one has a 44.94%. So just hold on a minute. Now, that tells you right off the bat that if somebody clicks on the other thumbnail, let's just say that the other thumbnail actually had a higher click-through rate than the one that I'm ultimately going to go with, I still wouldn't choose that, because what would happen is they would come into that video because the thumbnail had a higher click-through rate, but then they come over here, they're not going to even watch as long, right? You always want to go with the one that is going to make people watch longer. And so far, I can see kind of early in the game that this one is probably going to ultimately be the winner, right? But sometimes things can change, okay? Now, down here, the total watch time is the next one that I look at. So you can see 14 hours of total watch time, 25 hours of total watch time. So which one, based off of what the data that you see right here, which one do you think is actually going to be the winner? I think this one right up here is probably going to be the winner. And I even kind of decided that when I was actually making these, that this one actually stood out a lot more just based on how the background looks and how I adjusted the contrast to kind of make it stand out a lot more than the other one, right? So you want to look at those 6 points: the views, CTR, impressions, average view duration, the average view percentage, and then also the total watch time. And based on what you're looking at there, you then want to be able to make that decision, so that way you can actually start generating more views on your videos. And then at that point, what you want to do, you want to go right back up here, and then since I'm still running this test, it says extend the test, right? So I can extend this, but after your stuff is done, you'll see something that says set this thumbnail. Let me actually show it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. So if I go to past test real quick, and let me go to the ones that's finished, I know if I click on this one right here, you're going to see it says, based on the current sort of this thumbnail, it has the highest AVD plus CTR, right? So I've already analyzed this and I know which one is the winner. So I would go ahead and hit set this thumbnail on YouTube. And as you can see, it says, are you sure? I say yes. Set it. All right, so it's going through the process and it's automatically have now set that one as the winner, and that's the one that's going to stay on my video. And that's how simple it is.